Hello, my name is Marissa Mollera, and today is August 11th, 2018.
Hello, Marissa. Thank you for letting me interview you regarding Erickson's psychosocial stages of development. The purpose of this interview is for you to demonstrate your understanding of the theory and how the theory applies to you and students you currently teach or plan to teach. First question. Imagine I have never heard of Erickson's theory of psychosocial development. Briefly explains the line features of Erickson's theory of psychosocial development. What's the source of this information?
So, from our book for a class from Slavin, on page 46, he mentions that there's 8 different stages for his theory, and the first one starts with when a kid is born, and it's where they have to they have to develop trust for the world, really. And then the second is where the kid starts to want to be its own self and be an individual, and they have to compared to what the parents want, where they want to tell their kids what to do, kind of thing. And the third one is for the kids' motor skills are enhancing, and then they're also exploring their social and their physical environments, which is usually done with the help of family and friends and really anyone close to the child. Fourth one is when the kid is going to start school, and they're going to start putting their parents lower, and then they're going to start listening more to their teachers and their peers. And then fifth is when they have their first crisis of trying to figure out, as Slavin says, who am I? They put their parents, like, last, almost, I guess you could say, and they look mainly at their peers to help them and guide them to figure out who they are as a person. The sixth one is where they decide that they want and feel that they're ready to include someone else in their life, whether it be a best friend or a boyfriend or a girlfriend, but they're not putting their life on pause. Their life is still growing. Both of them are growing together rather than two separates. The seventh is where the person finds themselves wanting to educate the younger generation, in a way that they could do that is becoming a teacher. And then the last one is where they have their last crisis and they sit there and they're able to look at their accomplishments and their failures. And they also have to come to terms with the idea of death.
Okay. At what stage of development do you see yourself now? Why do you think so?
I would say I'm between 7 and 8, just 7 being wanting to educate the younger generation, just because I never really wanted to be in teaching while I was in high school. I kind of randomly had the want to teach anyone and everyone wherever I could. And also the 8th one, because I do sit there and analyze my accomplishments and my failures and what I've done to get my accomplishments and what I could have done differently to get my failures or to not have my failures. And yeah.
Okay. Explain how being at this stage of development, this may influence your behavior and outlook in your classroom. On what do you base this explanation?
So I think that it would help my my classroom, because wanting to teach and then also sitting here and analyzing my accomplishments and my failures and knowing what I did right or did wrong, I could sit there in the class, even though it's not a life class where I'd be teaching them what they should and shouldn't be doing. I would be able to either have random conversations in the class or have an activity to where one of these life lessons that I've learned that I found out on my own, I could try to connect with them and get them to understand. Yeah.
Okay. Identify at what level your students are or are likely to be at in Erickson stages.
I think because I'm going to be in high school and I have an elective, I'd be teaching Spanish, so I'd have anywhere from a freshman to a senior, which typically range from 13, I believe, would be the youngest age, to like 19 would be the oldest. I would say that some of them are going to be having their first crisis of trying to figure out who they are and looking only at their peers for guidance to figure out who they are and what they want to do and stuff like that. But then also maybe for the younger or the older crowd, they could be deciding that they want to have somebody else in their life, whether it being like a best friend or a boyfriend or a girlfriend. And yeah.
Okay. Explain how being at the stage of development, this may influence their behavior and outlook in your classroom. On what do you base this explanation?
Seeing that Slavin mentioned how for the 5th stage, which they'd have like their first identity crisis, they'd be around 12 to 18 years. That would be the group that I'd be working with. And then also with the intimacy, like having a relationship with someone else, being in a life with someone else, is young adulthood, which I would consider to be 17, 18 as well. I think that they would either help or hurt their performance in the classroom, just because if, depending on who their peers are, who their boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, is, if they're looking for them for guidance, if they are not for education, if at home they weren't really taught that education was really that important, it could make my student not really interested in education. But it could also really help if, like, in the student's peers' home life, if education was, like, drilled into their head that it was really important, it could also help them and also help them drive them in my class.
Okay. What might be some disconnections between you and your students, keeping differences in the 2 stages in mind?
I think differences that we would have is that I think education is very important, and I see where I've gone wrong and what I've done right, and possibly not being able to get through to them. We could butt heads at, and them thinking that their friends are more important compared to education.
Okay, and last, any final comments?
I think with being a younger teacher, I'd be able to connect more with the students and hopefully find an activity to where I could push these things that I find valuable that I found on my own, because I put myself really through college on my own. So things that I sat there and taught myself that I found either to work or not to work, I could find activity to push through to them and hopefully make a difference with them.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you.